Thanks for tuning in to your daily dose of quick real estate updates, local housing trends, and market data, plus tips, tools, and strategies to help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence. You're now getting ready with RealiCare Reports, powered by the innovation team, Cami and Rex. Now go grab your favorite morning breakfast, coffee or tea, and let's enjoy today's episode.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different, helping you get ready for, well, potentially a big move.
That's right.
Picture this. You're thinking about Florida. Sunshine, palm trees, maybe swapping that snow shovel for, I don't know, flip-flops.
Sounds pretty good.
It sounds amazing. But if you're looking to rent an apartment down there, and you're coming from somewhere else, maybe up north, well, you might find some things are surprisingly different.
That dream is definitely appealing, but yeah, the nuts and bolts of renting in a new place, new climate.
Yeah.
It can throw you some curveballs. Knowing what they might be is really key for a smooth transition.
Exactly. And that's where our source comes in. We've been looking at this really insightful article from Florida Realtors. It pulls out all these practical, on-the-ground details you really, really need to know before you sign that lease. It's based on research, sure, but also that kind of real-world Florida rental market wisdom.
Think of this deep dive as your essential prep guide, turning that sunshine dream into a solid, informed plan.
Totally. Our mission today is to unpack those critical bits, make sure you feel ready, confident. Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with something that, well, sounds simple, but in Florida, maybe not so much.
And that's water. Just understanding how water works on the property you're considering.
Right. The source makes a really interesting point about Florida's landscape. It's flat, super flat, and when it rains, it pours.
Oh, yeah. Intense rainfall.
So water flow, drainage.
Yeah.
It suddenly becomes this, major issue for apartment complexes. And here's something that jumped out at me. The article says you should try to visit the property during a storm or right after.
It sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Like, who wants to apartment hunt in the rain?
Right.
But it's actually incredibly practical advice for Florida. You get to see firsthand how that specific property handles a deluge. Are there huge puddles? Is the parking lot looking more like a temporary pond?
Is water pooling near the building?
Exactly. You're looking for evidence.
So it's not just asking, do you have drainage? It's seeing it or not seeing it work.
Precisely. And then you follow up with the leasing office. The source lays out some key questions. Is the building officially located in a flood zone? You need to know that.
Okay.
And crucially, have the parking lot, or maybe more importantly, the ground floor units ever flooded in the past? History matters here.
And why is this so important? I mean, okay, puddles are annoying, but...
Well, in Florida, the source points out poor drainage isn't just annoying. Standing water can seriously damage your car.
Oh, wow.
And if it gets into a ground level unit, it can ruin your belongings. Plus, dampness leads quickly to mold, which is a big health concern.
Right. Mold is definitely not something you want to deal with.
Not at all. So if you are looking at a ground floor apartment, the source suggests asking about very specific features.
Like what kind of features?
Things like, does this unit or building have flood barriers installed? Are there water sensors? Maybe even a sump pump system.
Huh? Things I wouldn't even know to ask about.
And ask directly, is flood insurance recommended for this unit? Or maybe even required by the lease?
That seems essential. Definitely want to know that before signing anything.
Absolutely. Understanding these water risks up front. It's just basic due diligence in a state known for, well, its weather.
Speaking of weather,
Yeah.
let's move to the really big one. Hurricanes. Florida knows hurricanes, obviously, in a way many other places don't. Your apartment complex absolutely needs a plan.
Yeah, hurricane prep is more than just having enough batteries and water yourself. How the complex prepares and responds is a huge factor for your safety and, frankly, whether you can even live there after a storm.
So what does the source say to ask about their hurricane plan?
Okay, first, the physical stuff. Do they put up storm shutters? Do they provide plywood for windows, or is that entirely on you, the tenant?
Good question.
Then, and this is critical, clarify who's responsible for securing things outside, like your patio furniture, your plants, anything on your balcony. Who secures that?
Oh, I never would have thought about that detail. I just assume I bring my stuff in, but maybe there are rules or timing issues.
Exactly. The source flags this because it's easily missed, but unsecured items become dangerous flying debris in high winds. You also need to know their communication plan during an emergency. How will they update tenants?
Okay.
And ask about the property's history with storms. How often has it lost power? What kind of damage has it sustained in the past?
Getting that track record seems really important. Like, how did they actually hold up?
It really is. And the source adds another important layer. Don't just ask about past damage, ask about their response after the storms. How fast were repairs made? How good was the communication during that recovery phase?
That tells you a lot about management.
It gives you real insight into how organized and supportive they might be when things get tough.
Knowing the whole plan, yours and theirs, feels like the core of being prepared.
It absolutely is. How
Right.
well you weather a storm is directly tied to how well the complex is prepared and how effectively they recover.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk money. The source mentions that renter's insurance is often required in Florida apartment complexes now.
Yes, that's becoming pretty standard practice. And they'll likely have a minimum coverage amount you need to maintain.
And that insurance, it basically covers your personal belongings.
It protects your stuff, yes. And critically, it can also cover costs for temporary housing if, say, storm damage makes your apartment unlivable for a while.
Okay, that's important. Now, here's something from the source that made me pause. It feels a little sneaky. What happens if you, forget to give them proof of insurance or you let it lapse?
This is a really, really crucial detail to nail down. The source warns that some complexes have a policy where if you don't provide proof, they'll just automatically enroll you in their insurance plan,
Oh,
which is often more expensive than what you could get on your own. And they'll just add that cost right onto your monthly rent.
wow.
And sometimes the notification that they've done this isn't super obvious. You might just see a higher rent bill.
So you could be paying extra every month and not even realize why right away. That could mess up your budget.
It absolutely could. It's kind of a hidden cost if you're not paying close attention. So you have to understand their specific policy on this before you move in.
Okay, good tip. And while we're on finances, what about rent payment itself?
Yeah, pin down those policies too. Ask, do they give you a warning if rent is late? What are the exact late fees? How many days late triggers the start of the eviction process? Get the specifics.
Those grace periods and timelines can really vary.
They absolutely do. Also, check if they require you to use an auto pay system and find out if their online payment portal charges any extra service fees or convenience fees just for paying your rent.
Ugh, those little fees.
They might seem small, maybe a few bucks, but month after month they add up. Understanding all these financial rules up front just helps you avoid unexpected hits later.
Okay, let's talk about actually living there day to day. Maintenance. Our source suggests that who's responsible for what can be pretty different in Florida compared to, say, rentals up north.
Yeah, making assumptions here is a recipe for frustration. You need total clarity. What is the property management fix or maintain versus what's on you, the tenant?
Can you give an example from the article? What's something specific to ask about?
A really common one they mention is air filters for your AC. Seems minor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in humid Florida, clean filters are essential for your air conditioner to work efficiently and, for decent air quality. So the source says ask directly. Am I responsible for buying and changing the air filters, or does maintenance handle that on a schedule?
Simple, but yeah, if you don't ask, you might just assume.
Exactly. And beyond specific items like filters, ask about the whole maintenance process. How do you actually request service? Is there a dedicated number or person for emergency after-hours problems?
Right.
And maybe most importantly, what's their typical response time for urgent issues, like a broken air conditioner, which is definitely urgent in Florida heat, or a serious leak, or, signs of mold?
Yeah, speed matters a lot when it's 95 degrees and humid.
It really does. The source emphasizes that fixing things quickly is crucial because the climate can make problems like mold or even pest issues get worse fast if they're not addressed promptly.
And you mentioned pests. Does the source talk about bugs specifically? Because Florida?
Oh yes, bugs are just part of the Florida environment. So you need to understand the complex's approach to pest control. Ask how often they treat. Do they treat inside units or just the outside grounds? Do you need to call and request service, or is it done routinely for all units?
Okay. Knowing who fixes what, how fast they do it, and how they handle the inevitable Florida critters. Yeah, that definitely affects your daily comfort and, frankly, your sanity.
It really, really does.
All right, let's tackle utilities. Another area the source flags is often surprising for renters coming from other places.
Especially the billing for water, sewage, and trash removal. It's not always a simple bill directly from the city or county utility.
How does it sometimes work then, according to the source?
Well, the article mentions a couple of common models. One is something called RUBS Ratio Utility Billing System.
Okay.
Basically, the complex gets one big bill for, say, water for the whole property, and then they divide that total cost among all the residents.
The division might be based on, like, the number of people in your unit or the square footage.
Huh. So you might be paying based partly on your neighbor's usage.
In a sense, yeah, depending on how they calculate it. The other common way is just having individual water meters for each apartment.
So you really need to know which system they use.
Definitely. You need to ask, are these utilities billed through the city-county? Or does the apartment management handle the billing and send you a separate bill? Are water, trash, sewer costs just rolled into your base rent? Or are they extra charges each month?
Right.
And here's the kicker again. Does the apartment office add any of their own administrative fees or service charges on top of the actual utility cost when they bill you?
Ah, those sneaky admin fees again.
Exactly. They might call it a billing fee or something. Understanding that whole structure prevents sticker shock when your first utility bill arrives. And like we said, those small fees add up. Makes sense. Okay, let's shift to something super practical that affects you every single day. Parking.
Seems simple, right? But the parking headaches that can arise. The situation can vary dramatically between complexes in Florida. It might be totally open parking, first come, first served, or it could be strictly assigned spots.
So what are the key parking questions to ask?
First, confirm. Does my unit come with assigned parking spaces? If so, how many? Are there rules for where guests can park? Do they need a special permit? Do you have to register guest vehicles?
Good points.
Also, if they offer covered parking, like carports or actual garages, find out if those cost extra per month. And if the parking is not assigned, just open.
Yeah.
Ask about typical availability, like what's it like trying to find a spot during peak times, evenings, weekends, especially if it's a big complex or located near, say, the beach or a busy nightlife area.
Oh, yeah, you definitely don't want to end up parking half a mile away every night after work.
Right. It's a small logistical thing, but it hugely impacts your daily routine and convenience, or lack thereof.
Okay, final section. Let's zoom out a bit to the bigger picture. Safety, what the community feels like, and local rules. The source notes that landlord-tenant laws in Florida can actually vary a bit by city or county.
Yeah, while there's a statewide framework, specific municipalities can have their own ordinances that might affect things like how much notice a landlord has to give for certain changes or specific deposit rules. It's worth being generally aware of your rights at the local level, too.
So what are some specific legal type or policy questions the source suggests clarifying with management?
Definitely ask about the exact process and, importantly, the timeline for getting your security deposit back when you eventually move out. What does Florida law say, and what is their specific procedure?
Okay.
Ask how much advance notice they are required to give you before raising your rent or making other significant changes to your lease agreement upon renewal.
Right, no surprises there.
And really understand their policy on breaking a lease early. What are the financial penalties? Are there specific conditions under which you can break it without penalty, like for military orders or certain job relocations? Get that clear.
Those are definitely things you hope you don't need, but you absolutely want to know the answers before a situation comes up.
Completely agree. And then moving beyond the paperwork, the source really encourages getting a sense of the actual living environment, the community vibe.
How do you do that?
Well, they suggest visiting the property at different times. Go on a weekday morning, maybe a weeknight evening, check it out on a weekend afternoon.
To see if it's like super quiet during the day, but maybe noisy at night.
Exactly. Get a feel for the general atmosphere. Is it mostly families, young professionals, students? Does it feel safe walking around? And the source suggests, if you can do it comfortably, try talking to some current residents.
Just chat with people who live there.
Yeah, if the opportunity arises naturally, ask them honestly about their experience. How responsive is management really? Do they feel safe? What are the noise levels typically like?
The article makes a point that this isn't like being nosy, right?
No, absolutely not. It's not spying. It's just smart research. You're about to make a big commitment, choosing where you live. Getting genuine feedback from people already living there is a perfectly reasonable part of checking if it's the right place for you, for your safety and your general happiness.
That makes sense. The lease tells you one story, but the day-to-day reality is another.
Precisely.
Wow, this has been incredibly helpful, really practical stuff. So to kind of wrap up, moving to Florida sounds great, sunshine and all that, but these details about apartment living, they're different, and they matter a lot. From prepping for weather you might not be used to and knowing who fixes the AC to figuring out weird utility bills and where you'll park your car, there's definitely a learning curve.
I think the main takeaway from our source material is crystal clear. Don't just assume things work the way they did wherever you lived before. Ask questions. Ask specific questions. Read the fine print on that lease, every single word, and really dig into how this specific property operates down to the details.
It sounds like doing that homework up front really can save a ton of hassle and maybe money down the road. So what does this all really boil down to? Maybe you could leave us with a final thought to chew on.
I think the source's overall message is really about empowerment through information. Just taking that extra time now to understand these potential Florida-specific differences, to ask those targeted questions. It can make a huge difference in how smoothly your move goes and how positive your experience is once you get settled.
That really resonates, making an informed choice.
Exactly. And maybe here's a final little thought experiment for everyone listening. Think about renting in general. What's one detail, something that seems totally obvious or standard about renting wherever you live now, that you just assume is the same everywhere? Now, imagine moving somewhere new, Florida or anywhere else. What could be the potential cost, annoyance, or headache if you didn't ask about that one simple thing, just because you assumed it would be the same?
That's a great challenge.
Yeah.
Makes you think about assumptions. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of Reality Reports, where real estate meets real life. For more updates, tools, and insights,